We advise the opinions and views of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
Everything we listen to, everything we watch, everything we read, everything we wear. Behind all our favorite things, there is an author, an artist, an inventor. Genuine, real, original. Pushing the limits of imagination and innovation for our comfort, our enjoyment. Making life interesting. Enjoy their efforts, respect them. They help shape our world.
Alright, good evening ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Intellectual Property. I'm your host, Attorney Sara Suguitan, and would like to give credit to the World Intellectual Property Organization and the Intellectual Property Office of the Philippines for bringing this show to GNN. Tonight we're going to talk about the internet and business software piracy, two issues that are dear to the hearts of many, especially those of us out there who are into the internet, of course. Earlier this morning, I was talking to Attorney Louis Calvario of the Intellectual Property Office, and the IPO has indeed been moving towards amending the current law in order to suit infringement cases that happen over the parallel universe that is the internet. So tonight, joining me on the program are Attorney Ben Marquez from the Business Software Alliance. Good evening, Attorney Ben.
Good evening, Sara.
Yes, and Attorney Francis Acero, a blogger and my classmate from the Ateneo de Manila Law School. Good evening, Kiko.
Good evening.
Hi. So the Business Software Alliance, what is it about, and what do you do in terms of business software piracy?
The Business Software Alliance is actually a trade association made up of software and hardware developers. Software, perhaps the most prominent member would be Microsoft. And we also have as members Adobe, Autodesk, Symantec, and other antivirus developers.
So software companies.
Software companies primarily, but we also have hardware makers such as HP, Dell, Apple, etc.
Okay, so what do you do on behalf of this big company?
Okay, the Business Software Alliance is the voice of these software and hardware makers in the computer industry, and we have a three-pronged program all over the world. These are education, policy, and protection of their rights as copyright developers. So basically, we try to advance the interests of these software and hardware developers in the different jurisdictions in which we are situated. Okay,
so it is an international organization,
yes,
more or less. So in what countries are you present in?
The head office of BSA is in the US. We are headquartered in Washington, D.C. And our regional office here in Asia Pacific is situated in Singapore. So we have anti-piracy programs all over the Asia Pacific region, such as Malaysia, Indonesia, and of course the Philippines. And one of the issues, the primary issue that we tackle is of course software piracy, because that is the main problem that is encountered by our members. And incidentally, in the Philippines, the software piracy rate for 2009 is at 69%. So you can imagine the extent.
Meaning 69% of industries, offices, and households use pirated software? Is that
you could say that. Another way of putting it is that out of 100 computers in use in the Philippines, 69 of those computers have pirated software installed.
All right. Francis, you have a blog.
Yes.
What do you usually write about?
Well, I started out as a fiction writer, so I used to keep my blog as a place to store my fiction. And then, as I became more and more plagiarized, I started moving into original non-fiction content. Now I write mostly about politics and the law.
So you make social commentaries, right, and do you get published? How do you say that you get plagiarized every so often? How does that happen?
Normally, I used to publish under Creative Commons license. A Creative Commons license allows you to put a set of copyright waivers or restrictions on your work. So you don't have to authorize people to use your work every time. What happened was I found my work being distributed on other sites without my
authorization
and without any attribution.
How did you feel when you realized, and how was that brought to your attention?
No, it's a continuing process. I used to work for Trend Micro, and one of the things that we did there was we used to fight spam. And one of the keys to fight spam or hoax emails is you search a string in your work and you go and look for it on Google. That's the easiest way. And with that, I got, say, around a couple of hits every now and then. And then it's a continuing fight. You know, just the other day, there were around 3 sites that used
put up your work.
That put up my work.
Oh, okay.
So you have to be proactive about these things. You can't just say, oh, well, you know, I'm just gonna sit back. So you can write letters to say, blogger if it's on a blogspot site, and that's also Google. And they have a terms of use violation, report policy.
So as a blogger, you have to be proactive in policing your own work over the internet. Internet. Last week, I had the Animation Council of the Philippines guest on this show, and they were saying that as outsourced animators, they had to submit the license number of the original software that they use in order to get remitted or to get paid back, or even hired by companies abroad, or in order for them to get projects. But the Business Software Alliance, how do you think you can help the industries? Because it's usually the reason for software piracy is apparently the price. Is that a frequent complaint that you receive, or do you think it's a good reason to justify piracy?
It's a common conception among the public that the reason why they pirate is because genuine software is expensive.
Yes.
But we've had, well, Trend Micro is one of the members of BSA. And one other member of BSA, which is based in India, produced a genuine software which cost only $2. $2 US. But still, that particular software was pirated. So it doesn't follow that if a particular software is cheap, it will not get copied or pirated anymore. Now, one of our members, Microsoft, has taken steps to bring the price of the software lower. They have programs for specific industries like the internet cafes. They have offered software which cost as little as 10 or 20 US dollars to these industries. They have educational software for use by schools and universities for students. And not just Microsoft, we have other members as well who have educational versions of their software. So we do not subscribe to the argument that the reason why we pirate is because of the price.
And actually, all they have to do is go to maybe the Business Software Alliance or your individual members in order to maybe negotiate a terms of license. Like, for example, I'm a starting internet cafe. I want to use genuine software. However, I cannot afford this. Can you give me a term that's more affordable, or something I can pay through installment or something?
Yes, Sarah, the key here actually is information. Getting to know the terms and conditions of the license that are provided by the software publishers, because they'll find out if they contact the software publisher that there are in fact licensing terms that are tailored to fit their needs. So you don't just have to go to a retail store and buy straight out of the box. You can, I mean, information is easily accessed now with the internet. You can go to the website of the developer and find out what are the promos or the discounts available.
Or can you give me a trial copy that I can use for a certain time, right? So all they have to do is reach out, and then they can start using legitimate
and
software.
When we do have educational programs as well, we get invited to speak before the universities and different organizations in different industries. And we inform our audience on these different types of licensing guidelines of our members.
Of your members. Kiko and I had a classmate in law school who was a musician.
Right.
And he was saying that when he discovered that he was on LimeWire, he felt that he was finally popular. All right, it's like a sign of success for him as a musician. And normally, authors and writers feel that when they start getting copied or imitated, it means that they are getting across a lot more people than usual. Francis, when you were getting plagiarized, how did that feel for you?
Well, you know, there's something that has to be said for your moral rights. That's why the IP code does recognize moral rights. And you know, it's something else when your words are taken by someone else and appropriated as their own. And so when that happened, the server on which most of that original work was stored crashed. So I had no other means to prove that these works were mine. Fortunately, I was able to offload most of that work into a certain site, and I used that as proof.
Okay, so people, when they plagiarize you, they don't even quote you as a sign of respect from
they don't.
Blogger Francis Acero. So they really copy it word for word, the sentence.
They copy it word for word, and they change the names.
And then substitute their names.
Right.
Okay.
So
that's not very good
issue.
manners, is it? Is
Right.
it?
You know, it's not only limited to, say, people who want to feel profound in their work. The other day, or the other week, there was this issue that cropped up that there's this particular photo that came up on a blog site, and a broadsheet used the photo without permission. These are the things that crop up from the small things that, say, taking without permission on a certain blog or website, for example.
Yeah, but usually I Google images, and sometimes if I need to borrow them or I want to download them, I just right-click it, and then I can save a copy. How about, I mean, can you put a protection measure somehow for a photograph or, for example, your work?
Well, there's
possible?
code available to put in your website that prevents any copying or downloading of, say, content. It's a right-click protection. But that's usually not as powerful as,
yes, and it's
say,
not commonly used.
Enforcement,
I
right?
think. I mean, how about the software trial versions? What are the protection measures that you, at least your clients use?
Some of our members have trial versions, as you said, which are valid only for a certain number of days. So after the 30-day trial period, they would have to go online or register and purchase their a new software product for use in their business. Now, speaking of right manners and good conduct earlier, which you mentioned, it's funny because businesses in general, not just in the Philippines, but in other countries as well, would invest when putting up a business. They would invest in tables, equipment, chairs, TV,
furniture,
a nice painting, furniture, etc., etc. Get automobiles, or the best people, hire them. But the last priority for them is software. They get hardware, they get the genuine hardware, but the software, they'll probably buy 1 or 2 licenses, or not buy at all, and then use it on multiple computers.
Yes.
So that's the damage. That's the damage that our members incur when these things happen. Because instead of their software products make these businesses competitive. For example, it's an architectural firm. They design plans for their clients, and they utilize the software of our members to be productive and to be competitive against other firms. But they scrimp on purchasing genuine software. So that's an illustration of the problems encountered by our members. And if you multiply this 1,000-fold, like for example, a business which uses 500 computers.
Yes. And
you can imagine the damage. Yes.
And you police, at least you monitor those establishments that use fake software on behalf of your clients?
We try to. We try to monitor. Of course, earlier I said that we try to educate the other industries and associations on the proper licensing guidelines. Recently, we also have studies conducted by external third parties that track the software piracy rate. And recently, we have a study presented to BIR Commissioner Kim and RS showing that if we lower the software piracy rate in the Philippines in the next 4 years by 10 percentage points, so if we lower it from 69% to 59%, it's going to result to an increase in tax collection, revenue, GDP, and it will produce jobs, high